Welcome to the show. You have found Mason Street Retirement Insights, where every week we turn to our resident financial advisor, Sean Mason. He is the founder of Mason Street Wealth Management right here in Fresno. And he's been helping clients retire with confidence for years. He'd love to do the same for you. So he is here today to break down some of the biggest retirement topics for us. All right, Sean, shall we do it? Shall we get into some retirement talk?
Yeah, we've got some really good stuff to talk about. I'm excited this week.
I am too, and I want to start today with inflation still running above the Fed's target of 2%. The latest read was 3.8%, but the market may have already priced that in. We've got investment officer Sebastian Page here on CNBC. Let's take a listen.
At the end of March, we thought the year-over-year earnings growth for the S&P 500 was going to be 13%. We're running at 27%. So here's what we're doing. We're taking some profits on the broadening trade, but importantly, we're hedging inflation risk. You know, my dentist always asks me for investment advice. I don't know why, but I always keep it short. I always say stay invested, stay diversified. It's trite, right? But what I'm telling my dentist now is stay invested, stay diversified, hedge inflation risk.
So, Sean, when you hear the words hedge inflation, what does that actually look like inside a retirement plan? I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough, Casey, how important this is, especially in retirement and planning. Inflation is probably the biggest mistake that I see people making, and it can crush a retirement planning because it's all about projecting expenses into the future, and especially look, when you've given up the paycheck, you've got to get that right. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the positive perspective on this is that inflation is predictable. Believe it or not, it's one of those areas that is predictable because it's a symptom of the economy. It's all about supply and demand. If you look at 22, which is our most recent high inflationary time frame, we knew that inflation was coming. You had COVID supply chain issues. It was difficult for people to get products. The supply chains were really stressed. And then you take, at the same time, because of COVID, the government was injecting trillions of dollars into the system. Look, supply, it was hard to get products, and a lot of people had more money than they've ever had because of all the different programs that were being initiated. That creates an opportunity for demand to really skyrocket. And then Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, you all remember where that administration injected another $5 trillion into the economy. That's what broke the camel's back. We all knew inflation was coming, but it's manageable. All right, so what are we worried about today? It's oil prices. The higher that oil prices get, the more probability there is for inflation to start rising, and how long the oil prices stay up, that's going to be considerable. So he makes a good point in starting to hedge, utilizing hedge strategies to hedge against inflation. Part of inflation is being concerned about interest rate hikes. So to your question, Casey, how do you hedge, or what does inflation hedging even mean? Mm-hmm. It means outpacing inflation. It means growing your money at a faster rate than what inflation is. Stocks and bonds. Look, in 2022, we remember stocks and bonds, they plummeted. Both of them together while inflation was going through the roof. But typically in history, stocks and bonds do outperform, I should say at least stocks outperform inflation. Mm-hmm. You definitely want to pay attention to interest rates. You know, back in 2022, interest rates were hiked, 7 or 8 times. They made it actually up to 8%. That gives you some opportunities to hedge against inflation. Look at inflation-linked options. You know, there's what's called TIPS. They're Treasury inflation-protected securities. The value, that's actually a Treasury bond. The value of that bond will go up with inflation, and the interest that it pays will go up with inflation. Also, I-bonds. Consider I-bonds. There are some strategies that you can utilize throughout the whole family. Use all members of the family to engage in I-bonds. And in 2022, we were using I-bonds. And if you can believe it, we were getting guaranteed 9% rate of return on those government guaranteed Treasury bonds.
So when we're talking about this phrase, Sean, hedge inflation, I think it can sound intimidating. You know, you're saying people are like, what exactly does that mean? So What do you want people to understand first about this phrase, hedge inflation? Are we talking about protecting buying power? Are we talking about protecting our income? Maybe a little bit of both. What do you want people to understand first?
Yeah, I think that especially when projecting expenses, so in projecting expenses, we know that things are going to cost more in the future. And how do we hedge against increases in expenses? We hedge against that by increasing the value of our resources. Social Security comes with a cost of living adjustment. Most pensions come with a cost of living adjustment. Your resources that you've saved up over time, your 401ks, your IRAs, your Roths, your savings, the dollars that you've put away so that you can use them to supplement those income sources, those have to be increasing in value at least to the level that expenses are increasing in value. So using hedging strategies means to ensure that the value of your accounts are increasing at least to the rate that inflation is increasing.
So when somebody sits down with you, Sean, for this retirement planning assessment that you're offering today, how do you test whether their plan can handle inflation over a long retirement without them having to become a market expert all on their own?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's one of the concerns that people have when they come into the office, if they've been thinking about it, is how do they plan for inflation within a comprehensive financial plan? We are going to stress test the plan for inflation. The CPI, Consumer Price Index, that's where at least the feds get the inflation rate. That's what they say the inflation is each year, is dependent on what that Consumer Price Index shows. And that Consumer Price Index has averaged over the last 50 years 2.8%. Our economy, our inflation actually got down to that 2.8% in January and February of this year. Of course, the oil prices have boosted that up a little bit. But we're going to actually default to using a 4% inflation rate moving forward. Yeah, it's high. A lot of people know that that's high, but we're very conservative in those projections that they use. So we want to overestimate inflation. We are going to run some scenarios where there'll be periodic situations where there's higher inflation. Usually that's short term. We saw that in 2022. We'll see that now. Inflation is ticking up right now, but we know that as soon as oil prices come down, because the economy was solid back in January and February, we all believe, analysts believe, that inflation will start coming back down again once oil prices come down. And this is why I encourage people to come in and talk with us. If these things are on your mind, get a little bit more clarity so that you can get more certainty in what the future has to offer, then you should come in and we should have a discussion about it. It's going to help you walk through those different concerns that you have. So give us a call. Our team is standing by.
That is going to do it for us this week here on Mason Street Retirement Insights. As always, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, with more great insight from Sean Mason, president of Mason Street Wealth Management. Take care.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.